Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to this session. My name is Mahdi Sajarpur. I'm part of AWS. I work on marketplace and control services, and today we'll be talking about building ready-to-use customer experiences with partner solutions. Kind of go over the agenda real quick, and then kind of dive into the topics. So at a high level, we're going to talk about what the customer journey is on the cloud. We've seen with customers being able to enable their environment so they can actually start building workloads and deploying workloads within there. We're going to have Avi from World Fuel Services talk about their experience, specifically being able to build out their environment and start migrating to AWS, and how they've used a collection of partner solutions and AWS services to be able to make that much easier. Adrian from our team is going to talk about how we do partner engineering at AWS, and Sandeep is going to actually go through building the integrated experience with our partners. We have a couple of launches this week that make that process way easier for you. Specifically was AWS Control Tower Account Factory Customization, which we launched on Monday, which will show how you can embed partner solutions within the AWS environment. So at a high level, I'll talk about what we see with our customers and building a journey towards AWS. Just like building a house, and we always use the house analogy, whatever the journey is, you want to build a strong foundation on AWS and be able to scale and build on top of it with all of your governance and controls intact. So what does that look like, and what is the customer's experiences, and what are the services we offer around that, and what have we learned from all of you in terms of what you want to specifically do in that environment? So we want to make sure that infrastructure is strong, the baseline is such that you can easily build on top of it, and then you can add additional components. And the example we use is we give you the building blocks, we give you the orchestration capability to be able to build things on top of it, and then you customize it, kind of like you move into a new house. You build it, you go move into the new house, you want to make it your own house, you start building and bringing in appliances and your own customizations to the house to make that possible. And we look at it the same exact way in terms of how customers go and build on AWS. So at a high level, we've seen customers start with setting up their baseline environment. We see what the first thing customers want to do as soon as they start building is put in their controls, make sure they're following their best practices from a controls and guardrails perspective, make sure they have compliance in place. They set up networking so they have connectivity back to on-prem or between their accounts within AWS. They want to set up identity so they can give access to their developers, their data scientists, and whatnot to be able to access the environment. They want to make sure the environment is secure. And they want to start actually monitoring and being able to build things out as they're moving forward with it. Then we see that, okay, we've built the baseline, we have access, we have security, we have controls. What's the next step? We see they start building and migrating their workloads to AWS and adding more capabilities from an operations point of view, like service management, to that environment. And then gradually we see them going into what we call the cloud operations model and going into operating, modernizing, and changing their environment and adding additional capabilities from a governance point of view. All of these capabilities you see here, they're kind of what we call like a cloud environment for you. This is the environment that's kind of like, think of it as your house, all the plumbing, the walls, all the stuff that makes the house function, make it easy for you to follow and live inside the house easily and comfortably. Is the same kind of thing with AWS. You build that foundation of the cloud environment such that you can actually deploy workloads without actually pushing governance down to developers or end users within that environment. So we call this the Cloud Environment Guide. You can actually access it online. There's a link there. So it's called the Well-Architected Cloud Environment Guides, and it gives you the kind of the baseline of doing that, not just with AWS services, but actually with partner offerings as well. So let's say I have a Cisco firewall on-prem, or I have an edge solution on-prem. I want to be able to deploy that in AWS. We heard from a lot of our customers. We want to be able to take what we have on-prem, run it in AWS. We have the skill set built into our environment, into our team, and we want to continue doing the same thing and make our transition easier to that. So here's a set of services we kind of recommend you take a look at. These are not the only services to leverage, but to start off with. And specifically, we built Control Tower to orchestrate some of that foundational components for you so you can actually build on top of Control Tower and use existing AWS services through Control Tower. So Control Tower orchestrates the CloudTrail. It sets up config for you. It sets up Identity Center. And with a recent launch earlier this week, you can actually set up Security Hub through Control Tower and actually have Control Tower controls through Security Hub deployed through Control Tower. And it also sets up AWS organizations and allows you to create accounts. So we've bundled that together so you can actually set up your environment faster using Control Tower as it orchestrates the creation of that baseline landing zone environment. There's additional services you would use. For example, you would set up networking, and then you continue to evolve and build more on AWS. You set up service management, you use Systems Manager, you start using CloudWatch to operate, and here's a set of services. But what we heard from our customers was, that's great. We also want to be able to use some existing partner offerings that are out there for various reasons that we would want to leverage within that environment. So we started building solutions around with our partners who are on Marketplace. So for example, from a cloud operations point of view, Datadog, New Relic for monitoring, PagerDuty. From a security point of view, CrowdStrike, Okta from an identity perspective, networking with Cisco, Bluecat, Aviatrix, and data solutions with Snowflake. So I want to be able to actually, within that control tower environment that you're building, I want to be able to do things with partner solutions. And today we're going to focus on that specifically and how you would be able to do that in an AWS environment. We launched the Control Tower Marketplace Solutions about 2 years ago, which gave you guidance in terms of what's the best practice to get, let's say, a Cisco or a Palo Alto running on AWS fairly quickly. What we heard back from our customers was, that's great, but it's still taking us a lot of time to configure and procure that solution, and how can you help us remove that process and make it way easier for us to deploy, configure, and procure on AWS? And what we learned through that process was, when they're doing the setup, they have kind of two kind of scenarios they need to solve, right? So as I create new accounts within AWS, as I create new environments within AWS, we have this concept of a hub or deploying things centrally. So think of this as, I have a firewall or I have a security appliance that I'm using, like a Cisco Edge solution I'm deploying it once, and it's using it for my entire environment. And then we see solutions where, okay, I've set that up, but every single AWS account that I create, I need to be able to connect back and use that edge security service within my environment. So we have this kind of concept of a spoke, which is every single account that gets created would need a specific set of configurations and, let's say, security agents and whatnot deployed within that account. Or it might even need just IAM roles, so actually can get things started faster. We summarized some of those learnings, and today we're going to kind of talk about what we've learned and what we've deployed this reInvent to make sure and enable you to be able to do that with Marketplace. So we understand that customers want readily available templates, best practices that are available to them that they can just deploy straight from the console. So as they're, let's say, creating a new account within AWS and setting up a new environment, they'll just be able to grab a template that's following best practices and then deploy it. They want to be able to procure that as well through that process. And then they want solutions both for the hub and the spoke side of it. So I want to deploy a solution once. I want to deploy solutions in every single account. I need to have every single account follow the best practices associated to that account. And then I want to be able to modify the configuration of that and make it easier for me to be able to change things within, let's say, a CloudFormation template. And then I want to be able to track it and distribute and manage licenses. So at a high level, these are what we've learned from our customers and these asks, and we have some new features today that we're going to talk about. But before we go through there, I want to introduce Avi Boru from Worldview Services, who's going to walk through their journey on what they've done to be able to enable third-party solutions within their environment and how they deploy it. Off to you, Avi.
Awesome. Thank you, Mahdi. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great time at reInvent. It's always fascinating to see every company sharing their cloud journey year on year at reInvent. And today I'm really excited to share our cloud journey over the last 3 years. My name is Avi Boru, and I'm the Director for Cloud Engineering at Worldview Services. And Worldview Services is a global energy management company. We have a diverse set of energy solutions, both for commercial and industrial clients worldwide. And we have been founded, and we've been operating for over 38 years. And we're ranked Fortune 111, headquartered in Miami, Florida. And some more specifics for you to understand Worldview Services. We operate in over 200 plus countries, and our diverse portfolio includes 50 plus energy products, ranging from renewable and power, conventional fuels, gas fuels, and specialty products. And as of 2021, our revenue was over $30 billion. And our customers range across 3 key business segments: marine, aviation, and land, totaling over 165,000 clients worldwide as of today. And as we started our journey, we started with a key business outcome. Where are we headed? What is it we really wanted to achieve? And the business goal that we set was we wanted to innovate and deliver features faster so we can digitize our global business operation. And the keywords there being innovate, fast, and to digitize our business operations. That sounds good, but how do we break that goal technically into a technical strategy that we can achieve? So we broke down our technical strategy into one, we need to enable ourselves to innovate, which is exit our data centers, migrate to AWS, so we can take advantage of all the cloud services. And then once we're in the cloud, we leverage a lot of the cloud native services so we can innovate and deliver features faster. But while we are migrating or while we are innovating, one of the key things that we always needed to make sure is we cannot disrupt our business operations. So we needed to ensure our operations are not impacting our business during our migration phase, and they're not impacting even during the innovation phase. But the key thing with the innovation phase is we needed to enable ourselves to operate at scale, because with a lot of AWS services that our teams will be using to innovate, to build solutions, operating at scale is really critical for us. But what technical outcomes would we achieve across each of these phases to align with our high-level business outcome? In terms of migrate, we wanted to reduce our carbon footprint just by exiting our data centers while minimizing the costs. While when we wanted to operate or build our operations at scale, with COVID, we had an additional challenge of we needed to be less reliant on our on-prem infrastructure so we can continue with our business operations without any impact. And in terms of innovate, as we reduced our carbon footprint, we wanted to enable our customers also to reduce their carbon footprint, where we needed to give them the carbon offsets as part of their existing product-related transactions or bundles. We started that with our aviation portfolio, and it's across all the business segments right now. And as we were being migration-focused, which is to achieve our outcome of reducing carbon footprint and minimizing our costs by exiting data center, some of the technical specifics we needed to handle were we needed to rehome our applications from the data centers to AWS, and we needed to comply with our regulatory requirements while also rebuild our security and network operations in the cloud. And when I say rehome critical applications or regulatory requirements, which means we needed to build secure, compliant cloud environments. And to do that, we needed to ensure that our cloud platform engineers who are responsible for our AWS environments are logging into our management account, and we built ourselves a custom service catalog account vending machine over 3 years back, and we leveraged that product to create an AWS account, and then manually configure our account readiness, which includes CloudTrail, config, enterprise support, and the network and security operation-related baselines of a VPC or AWS SSO, now known as IAM Identity Center. And in addition to that, we needed to integrate our partners into our platform, which includes creating an IAM role per partner, and then manually logging into the partner platform and configuring the newly created AWS account. And we need to repeat that for every single partner that's out there for us. And once the account creation, account readiness is done, our accounts are now ready to be usable by our product teams who leverage service catalog products to migrate their application workloads. This was good for a while, but then as we started to enable ourselves to innovate and use a lot of cloud services, doing these things manually was a challenge for us. And in our innovation-focused, our platform challenges included, in addition to creating accounts, we also needed to onboard new tools which are needed for building innovative solutions. We needed to build environments on demand as teams wanted. And our regulatory postures have also increased as we've been onboarding new applications or migrating new existing applications, and we also needed to protect our data. And one of the key things was we evolved and we also needed to integrate more partners for deeper insights. So how did we do that? The workflow still stays the same, where the cloud platform engineers who are responsible for our cloud environment, instead of relying on manually creating the accounts or relying on custom automation, our answer was automate. Okay, automate sounds good, but do we build that custom automation, continue to manage that? So our criteria was, when we are automating, first look for if there's something out of the box. So we don't have to manage a custom solution that we've built. That's where we started replacing our custom solution with Control Tower, which creates an account and which leverages, or which also does the account readiness, which is centralized CloudTrail, centralized config, AWS Enterprise support. But we still needed to do partner integrations. With the release of AWS CloudFormation org stack sets, we leverage automating partner integrations, where any new or existing accounts automatically has partners integrated by creating an IAM role and by expanding our CloudFormation org stack sets to use custom resources to log into the partner platform and configure the AWS account. So with this automation, we were able to scale our partners as we've been increasing and supports both existing and new accounts. But in addition to the partner integrations, as we've been evolving in our innovation journey, we also had new capabilities or identity controls, which is service catalog launch constraints or permission boundaries for our user access, which were also being done through the CloudFormation org stack set. And we still needed to do the network and security operational baselines, for which we chose AWS Service Catalog, where we have our VPC automations, or AWS SSO, which is providing users access into their newly created accounts. And once all the account creation, account readiness is done, the product teams are again enabled to use Service Catalog products and leverage all the various AWS services that they could use to innovate building all the solutions. And I've been mentioning about partner integrations. So I wanted to emphasize on one specific partner that we've been working, who's been with us along our cloud journey for the last 3 years, was Sunrise Security. Sunrise Security is an end-to-end cloud security platform, which helps us with the capability for workload, platform, identity, and data security. And with Sunrise Security's partnership, we were able to monitor 10,000 plus IAM roles. We were able to secure over hundreds of data stores, and we were able to prioritize and remediate more than 10,000 security findings across our cloud platforms. And the key thing that we found with the partner integrations was it aligns with our automation strategy of don't start automating everything custom. If there's something out of the box, you could leverage it and build on top of it. That's where the partner integrations have been critical for us. So we can leverage something that's already out of the box just by integrating the partner into our AWS environments. I've mentioned a lot around automation, partner integrations, and everything. So let me summarize the automation that we've done. So our automations includes Control Tower as of today, which does account creations and account readiness, and AWS CloudFormation org stack sets, which does the identity controls for us, in addition to the partner integrations, and our Service Catalog products, which does VPC creations and AWS SSO access management. So where do we stand as of today after 3 years of our cloud journey and all these automations, partner integrations? Today, we are able to provision our environments 10x faster because everything is end-to-end automated for new as well as existing accounts. And we were able to migrate 20 of our 22 data centers. And we're planning for the last 2 data centers, hopefully by the end of the next year, 2023. And with more automation, we reduced our tech debt. And while our productivity has increased by a significant 40% over the last 3 years, year on year. And I'm really excited to share our innovation journey, hopefully at the end of the last two data centers migration next year. With that, I'm going to hand off to Adrian for the partner engineering at AWS. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Adrian DeLuca. So I lead a team in AWS that's focused on partner software integrations. And so I think Avi did a really good job talking about those first two phases on getting through migration and operation, not just quickly, but also ensuring that you have that level of governance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is under the hood on some of these partner integrations, because it's not just about bringing your existing application workloads. You want to be bringing your infrastructure as well as your application software with the same level or the opportunity to even up-level a lot of the governance. So let me talk a little bit about the life cycle for partners, because this is where, as we expect high standards through things like our well-architected framework, it's something that we insist upon on all of our partner solutions so that you have that same level of confidence. So I'm going to start by talking about how we do that with partners. So it does start with service integration. So we looked at some service integrations around using things like CloudFormation, it's now CloudFormation Registry, Control Tower, CloudTrail, AWS Config. That's where most of the opportunities for bringing partner products start. But it doesn't end there. When we talk about solution development, we talk about how we can provide the governance and guidance around the best practices for that product. Often we have to produce, or we have produced tools that partners use to validate those best practices. So my team in particular has been working on tools like TaskCat and CFN linting to ensure that those things can be produced very, very quickly. And finally, there's the publication process. So publishing those in Service Catalog, in our Partner Solutions library, and often in public repositories like GitHub. Now, increasingly, if you've been using Marketplace and you've been using Control Tower, you'll see that these experiences are now built into the console. And so being able to use the console integration to launch, configure, and often parameterization of those applications can be done directly in the console without having to go and launch those things, go into the product themselves and start doing some bash scripting and so forth. So let me talk a little bit about what partner solutions are. Effectively, they're just two things. They are guidance, so our best practices around security, governance, maintenance, management, together with automation. That's, in effect, what they are. So essentially, we take these partner products, follow our well-architected practices. They go through a foundational technical review before they are listed in a marketplace or they are published into our Partner Solutions library. And they are developed together with the engineering teams from the partner as well as AWS engineering. And that's a really important point, because when we're engineering these, there is an opportunity, like as I said, to up-level those best practices and those governances. That's what we're doing together with our engineering team. We're also maintaining those on your behalf. So we straddling the trade-offs of having to customize your own whilst still having to use what your partner says is the best guidance. We have to straddle both those and give you the opportunities to be able to customize those as needed. So you'll also see that something that we have done traditionally, we've been building these obviously with CloudFormation, but something that we actually introduced earlier this year is that increasingly you will find these modules and templates being available now in Terraform. So for those of you who are using that, maybe even in environments outside of AWS, you don't now no longer have to go and pivot just to using CloudFormation. And I can tell you they've been very popular. In our first 2 months, we saw 30% of the launches of partner solutions using Terraform. So we've received very good uptake of that. Now, again, this automates 80% of the work. Okay, as I've talked about, there's still work that you have to do. Obviously, things like network firewalls, security, storage are still going to require configuration from the actual product's perspective. But being able to automate 80% of that is what gets you that kind of speed that Avi talked about. Okay, so for those of you who have probably used these before, you might remember them from a different name, AWS Quick Starts. Well, what's happened to them? Effectively, we've just evolved them. For the past 7 years, we have built a repository of over 260 partner solutions in our repository. We've had another 400 solutions that are also built natively with AWS. What we heard from you as customers saying, well, why do I have to go one place for the AWS developed ones and then also somewhere different for our partner ones? So we've combined those into a single repository. There's 3 things here. First of all, you can find all those solutions in one place, and we've got a new categorization of solutions. Not every solution, believe it or not, is CloudFormation or Terraform. So we have guided solutions that might do things or might have things like integrations. So things that you will find are not just the products, but integrations with Amazon Connect. So if you want to bring Zendesk and Service Desk and integrate that with Amazon Connect or our EventBridge integrations, they're also curated, engineered solutions that you can also deploy. Now remember, again, these are modules. So using things like CFN registries, you can create stack sets with them, right? All in your control. The other thing that we've also done is to make them easier to find is that we've got a new categorization model. Previously, we had everything listed as technical domains, so storage, networking, so forth. Now we've got them not only by those technology domains, but also by industry type as well as organizational size. The final thing is that if you are developing, because there might be some partners here in this room, AWS wants to really invest in that go-to-market model. And so having AWS solution architects working side by side with those partners as we're enabling proof of concepts and so forth, that enables us to use a consistent set of technical artifacts for those things. So as a customer, what are the key benefits that you get? Obviously simplified deployment, predictable deployment. So these push-button deployments automatically apply those best practices in code, okay? Incorporating our security, our resiliency standards, you get those out of the box. It's important to note that these are production grade, okay? But there are times where you might want to launch them not in a production solution. So another thing that we've been doing over the last couple of years as well is giving you options if you want to deploy, say, multi-AZ, right? Or if you want to keep that in a single AZ. So you have that configuration directly built into the conditions of the CloudFormation. Obviously, deploying these things in minutes versus all the manual effort that I know, Avi, that your team had to do. But deploying once and deploy consistency. What we mean by that is this really helps reduce a lot of the manual errors, especially if you're using these in your own repos or you're using them directly out of our own repos. The fact that is, these are going to be deployed from those consistent environments. Another point I also want to make is we purposely publish these on GitHub under an Apache license. Reason being is that you're going to want to take them, modify them, and then recheck them into your own repositories. But you'll always have a consistent set that we always maintain. I talked about production and customization. Another thing that also to add is this is something that not only that we build, but we test consistently. Every week, every single partner solution is launched in every single region across the world where we support that region, of course, or where the product is supported in that region. So if it breaks, we will find out about it before you do. Right? So this is something that we're not just interested in building, it's something that we're very vested in maintaining for the long term. And of course, there is no cost. Right? You only pay for the services that are launched. So there is no cost for the use of these partner solutions. Okay, so a couple of areas where we see them being used. As I talked about, they are production grade, but often if you are evaluating a new partner or replacing an existing product, or you have an on-premise version that you want to go and test, it's a great way to go and develop and pilot that before you go and put that into production. Now, these are certified workloads, as you can imagine, as I'm sure you know. A lot of applications that you use have minimum requirements. So we bake those in, and that co-engineering means that we will only ever launch or only ever build on a certified CPU, right, or EC2 instance class. We also automate a lot of the, or users, or underneath the covers is using these stack sets for our marketplace listings. Now, more often than not, what we see is that partners are building on top of them. One of our most successful quick start or partner solution is the EKS reference architecture. Why? Because you get a ready-made environment to go and build your application on. So it's not all just about partner solutions. You can build your own applications on top of these deployments as well. And they're a great way to learn, especially if you're still building your COE or your cloud practice. This is a really great way to be able to, give these environments in, through the service catalog, be able to get those launched in some of your non-production accounts, and then when you're done with them, basically wipe them away. So all those CloudFormation creates and deletes are all managed there for you. Here's just some of the partners, as I mentioned. Now, of course, I think, Avi, you talked a lot about some of the what we call infrastructure partners, observability, security, networking, and so forth. But you'll also see a number of application products and increasingly industry products that we've also built integrations for as well. These are what they look like when you go to the AWS Solutions page. Okay, not only will you see the architecture and what actually gets built, but you'll actually see how it gets deployed and the cost in that particular region. So if you're concerned about how much it may be costing you, you'll be able to see that before you actually get launched. And we also have connected those add-on products, as I mentioned before. There's integrations, for example, with ServiceNow, with EventBridge, and so if there's other extensions to that we've built, you can all see those in one place. So as a partner, some of the value here that we see, we've talked a lot about the ones on the left-hand side, but they really do enable broad reach. For those of you who are, for example, a software company and want to sell or start building your go-to-market in places where you may not have a presence, one of the biggest things that we see is we see a lot of self-service launching going on in places where our these companies, our partners, are very surprised how many times those things get launched. These are just two of the success stories that we've done most recently. One with Databricks. As you can see, not only do we see the reduction in time, but just the reach of over 3,800 customers using this in the space of just literally 2 years. We also see them increasingly being used in sales opportunities as well. It's a great, as I mentioned before, it's a great opportunity to use that through proof of concept or proof of value phases as well. So with that, thank you very much. I'm now going to pass over to Sandeep, who's actually going to show you how some of this stuff works.
Good afternoon, folks. Am I audible in the back? My name is Sandeep Kashyap. I'm a principal specialist with AWS. And I work with customers such as Avi to identify what are the key requirements and outcomes that they're working with, and how, as AWS, we can work with partners to make it simple, make their journey building their environment simpler. Along with working at specialists, I'm a very proud gardener as well. I try to take care of my yard as best as I can. But what typically happens is when you're trying to take care of your yard, you end up procuring so many lawnmowers or different appliances to maintain your yard, and you end up with stuff that you're unable to use, especially when the winters come or at any other time, right? That is my tech debt. And tech debt is what customers tell us, stuff that we end up doing, which we should not be doing, what AWS and your partners should be doing. Because once what we build is not, the person who's built it moves on, they're not able to, actually make sense of it. So that's so much of code that's lying unused, which they have to maintain. And like my stuff takes up space for me, it takes up space for them in terms of maintenance and having to rebuild it again. And especially when you're looking at so many different use cases or scenarios or capabilities that customers need to build into their environments, from visibility into each and every aspect of your cloud environment on AWS or on-prem, automating the governance aspects of it, because as Avi talked about, they are getting into a scenario where they will have hundreds or nearing thousands of AWS accounts. How do you make sure operations in each and every account are consistent, right? And then you want to make sure you have your guardrails so that your security posture, the regulatory posture, is maintained. That continues to increase the tech debt that you as a customer have and the maintenance cost that goes with it, right? There are additional scenarios that you need to implement regulatory postures in each and every geography that you have your businesses in. And as World Field Services talked about, they are spread all over the world, right? Just think of that scenario, how much code needs to be written to make sure you're secure and compliant in so many regions, right? Let's double click into this and see what it means. And I'll touch upon two scenarios, what we've worked with some of our partners and building these solutions for our customers. One of them is implementing security. Avi gave us a blueprint of what his AWS account looks like. Think about doing it in each and every AWS account. He talked about 10,000 IAM roles. That's like critical stuff. You need to be able to not only deploy them, but make sure those are not over-permissioned, right? That's where we have integrations with partners such as Sondrai, Palo Alto, CloudKnox, and all, which tell us that, hey, these are the resources that are there in your AWS accounts, and at the same time, these are the users and identity principles that you need to make sure are not over-permissive, or if they're not being utilized, you need to delete them. So when you're looking at maintaining your security operations across hundreds and thousands of AWS accounts, that is really what you need to do, right? And that's just one aspect of it, because when we start building out the landing zones for customers with Control Tower, that is the number one use case we have to work. Just like in your house, after you've got your keys to the house, you will set up Ring or any other monitoring tool. That is what a customer would need to do as they build their landing zone and cloud platform. What follows next, another example, is network operations. Right? Given the criticality and security we need to build around our data, we need to make sure all network traffic is secure. It is built around a hub and spoke architecture, and that's where we've worked with partners such as Cisco and Aviatrix to build this. This is an implementation that we've built with Cisco in building a hub and spoke approach, where your infrastructure account hosts your network hub, and then as you create new AWS accounts, you're able to set up the VPCs which have attachments into your transit gateway or the appliances that are set up. The implementation and the blueprints that we've published as a part of a feature launch earlier this week include this networking template that we've built along with Cisco. There are other networking scenarios that we need to implement where partners such as ExtraHop and BlueCat contribute and provide additional capabilities. Now, as we're doing this, there are multiple approaches to implementing these kind of customizations. Now, and with Control Tower, you can use the customization framework. But think about it. Just to set that up, you have to first set up your landing zone, then look at what lifecycle events you need to integrate or orchestrate your customization with. These include building a manifest file that, hey, this is my organization unit, or this is the type of account I'm creating. It's a production account. These are the payloads you need to deploy. And that entire setup is something that you as a customer have to maintain. So goes back to my dilemma of being a gardener and trying to do something which I'm not really have a lot of expertise in. And that's again a feedback that we got from our customers that, yeah, it all sounds great. These integrations are good, but we have to think about what value the partner provides, what value you provides, and then stitches together, right? And that's not essentially our skill set. We would rather not do that, for the simple reason that the technology a company invests in, they would like to use it for their business, how to grow their business, how to make innovative solutions that respond to their end customers, not really building your foundation. If I had to just keep on painting and plumbing my house all the time and not look after my kids, I'd be very frustrated at some point of time. That's something that customers have really said that we need better ways to do it. So keeping that feedback in mind, we released this feature on Monday, which is called Account Factory Customization. The experience we want to deliver with this is that as a cloud architect, you are able to identify and select the capability that you want in your environment, right? You would be able to define, okay, these are the specifics that I need, but not essentially build the plumbing in each and every AWS account that you need, right? You select this capability, and then you just deploy the account, and Control Tower actually deploys that entire payload for you, right? So it moves from a self-managed territory into a managed approach, where Control Tower is able to pick up the capability that you've defined or selected based on the multiple partner products or blueprints that are available in the Getting Started library, and then get your account up and ready, right? We want to bring it down to zero code in terms of deployment overhead for you, right? And that's for the feature we've built, and that's something that we will demo as a part of one of the blueprints. So this is one part of the account factory customization. I hope it is visible. It seems a little small, where you provide the account level details, the access configuration, and the organization where the account should be placed. And after that is what we have the account factory customization panel, which has been introduced. In this panel, after you validate your account, and you will see all of this in a blueprint, when you validate the account, you select the blueprint version, and you launch the account. That blueprint, whether it is just a VPC that is being deployed, or in the case of Cisco, with whom we work to build an edge security solution which sets up a hub account and is able to set up a spoke account also. So for customers who are looking at comprehensive security solutions as they migrate from on-prem to cloud, get the same level of security they have from on-prem to cloud, the Cisco solution in the Getting Started library is something that you can use out of the box. These are the partners that we launched this feature with, and as you can see, we have a bunch of solutions and that you can choose and deploy. But at the base of it, and what Adrian also alluded to, is the CloudFormation Registry resource types. Those are the base building blocks that we have built with these partners that allow you to encapsulate a lot of this functionality and not have to maintain CloudFormation templates that describe the end-to-end functionality of those partner products. And the partners that we've built these account factory customization or the blueprints, these are the partners that we've worked with. Now we will look at how account factory customization deploys one of these blueprints. I've picked up a slightly simpler one for today's demo. This is with Splunk, and one of the common scenarios which goes into networking and observability is where customers want to set up networking or VPCs and make sure that the VPC flow logs are sent to Splunk, right? So the approach that would take place in this case is as soon as Control Tower sets up your account factory or uses account factory to set up your account and deploy your VPC, that VPC should be able to, whenever there's some traffic that goes through that, it should go, the log should go through Splunk. And that's what we would use as a demo today. Okay, so in this one, there's some pre-set up steps where the HEC token in the Splunk endpoint is being set up as a one-time activity, so that every time an AWS account is created after that, and when you set up a VPC, you're able to push your flow logs directly to those endpoints.
AWS Control Tower. Let's start by going to
So what we're doing right now is launching the Control Tower account factory. You specify the account email. That is something that you have to do as a standard step. You specify the break glass user, and this break glass user is created in your Identity AWS Identity SSO portion, and then we go into the account factory customization portion. Now, all the blueprints are stored in a separate AWS account, which is a part of your organization, right? And they are stored as service catalog products in a portfolio. So you specify that account, validate it, and once you do that, you're able to see all the products that are available in your account. And you select a product, you select the version, and then you select or specify all the parameters that need to be defined for that CloudFormation template or the product to be launched.
let's leave the default values for the other parameters.
Finally, you select the region in which you would like to deploy that template. It could be a single region deployment, or it could be all the AWS regions into which Control Tower is managing your resources, right? And then you go ahead and create the account. What follows is first the account creation, deployment of all the guardrails that Control Tower will set up for you, followed by the deployment of the actual blueprint, right? And that's what I meant by the managed deployment of custom blueprints by Control Tower, right? What we're seeing right now is the entire stack set that is being deployed. As you can see, it was zero touch from a partner or the end user or a consumer perspective. And then you actually go and test out this implementation in this case, because the VPC that has been set up has the flow logs destination specified as the Splunk endpoint. So at this point, there's a VPC creation step taking place, and yep, you've got that, the endpoint specified. And as you can see, the flow log destination type is mentioned as a Kinesis fire hose.
Let's view the Kinesis data fire hose delivery stream.
Right, this points back to the stack set that was deployed during the account creation time.
Now, let's generate some network traffic to send VPC flow log data into Splunk. To do this, we'll launch an Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud or Amazon EC2.
To test this implementation as a part of the demo, the next step would be to launch an EC2 instance using the same VPC that has been set up. Before that, they will use an IAM role that will be used to launch that EC2 instance with the EC2 settings. And
we'll add permissions to access AWS Systems Manager. Let's proceed to the next screen. Finally, we'll enter a name and create the role. Now let's navigate to EC2 to launch the instance. We'll give the instance a name and use the Quick Start configuration for Amazon Linux. We'll edit the network settings to specify the test VPC we created earlier. Let's choose the public subnet and enable a public IP to be auto-assigned. Under Advanced Details, we'll enter the IAM instance role that we just created.
I apologize, I didn't have a silent movie in mind when I started this off.
For our example, we'll proceed without.
Hopefully, if you're able to follow it, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer it towards the end. This is a step when they've created the VPC, they've created the EC2 instance with a service role, and they're connecting to that EC2 instance and then driving traffic through it, and making sure that any traffic that has been set up, the flow logs are available in your Splunk
We can see that our VPC flow log data has been received. You've just seen how to configure AWS Control Tower to send VPC flow logs.
So I will publish this video shortly afterwards where you'll be able to get the audio as well. So again, I apologize for the technical glitch that we saw over here. I will point you to some of this content where you can access the initial documentation that we've created on how these accounts have been, the workflow is, the documentation around account factory customization, some of the blogs that we've already been able to publish with partners such as Lacework, Cribble, and we have more blogs coming with the partners that we've launched. Please also look at the playlists. These are small snippets of videos on YouTube that help you build a governance and management strategy, right? What are the different aspects you need to look at from a cloud operations perspective, scalability perspective, migration, and so on. And also, there's this playlist around Control Tower videos, which tell you different aspects about Control Tower, setting up, creating organization units, what is the multi-account architecture and how to create it using Control Tower, and how to build a customization framework around Control Tower. With that, I'd like to close the session. Thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to your feedback.